from the PGA Tour. So that is at the second hole, the par 5, which is where we now find Brooks Koepka. He was going through his practice preparations. That's his caddy, Ricky Elliott, alongside him. You see he'll go out at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. He plays with Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. Kind of surprised to see Brooks Koepka, guys, all the way down at 18 in the official World Golf Ranking right now. He has, of course, had his fair share of injuries. This will be his first start since Honda. He chose to take Bay Hill off. He's had kind of an up and down last month, really, I suppose you could say. Eamon missed cuts in 2 of his last 4 appearances. Did have a good run, of course, in Phoenix. He typically plays well there. Former champion, finished 3rd at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. What do you make of the Brooks Koepka of late?
It's kind of feast or famine. He spent last year, and the year before that, really, dealing with injuries, and he hasn't quite got the sharpness of a swing back. I mean, last year, he was 11th on tour in strokes gained tee to green. He's barely in the top 100 now. He seems to struggle a lot. He's doing this aim point thing we see him doing now and then I was talking to Ricky Elliott this morning, his caddy, and Ricky says he basically does all of these motions for aim point and then turns to me and said, read the putt for me. So I don't think he's quite certain what he's doing. And the third guy you'll see come into the frame here is Jeff Pierce, who is Koepka's putting coach, who spends a lot of time with him as they're trying to figure out this particular part of the game. He was messing around with the different drivers. He's finally settled on a driver that he feels is kind of putting him back where he wants to go. But it's really at this part of the green where he seems to look confused, because he doesn't really look as though he's particularly comfortable with this aim point technology that Jeff Pierce is trying to teach him here.
So this is Jeff on the right of the screen? Just walked out of screen. Okay. Aaron, what's your take on the aim point?
I'm a big fan of whatever helps players, and Paul Azinger taught me something a long time ago, and I'm kind of old school in the way I approach the game to a certain extent. And basically, if it doesn't work in the first 10 minutes, dump it, because all it's going to do is get in your head and make it more difficult. Now, kudos to Brooks if he's trying to make it work, but he's an athlete. I mean, the guy is an athlete. He's described himself as an athlete, and athletes react. They look and they react. I don't ever remember seeing Tiger trying aim point. It
wasn't a thing back then.
It wasn't. It is now. He could have easily gone to it. It's been around for a good decade now. And I think that Brooks just needs to continue being an athlete. Are there ways that you can get better? Sure. And if it helps him, I'm all for it. Again, if it helps him. But if it creates more confusion and it creates more muddledness in his brain, then no, it's not a good thing.
Single most important thing with any system, regardless of what the system is, or any type of a golf swing for that matter, is that you believe in it. You were talking about Tiger Woods and never seen him do aim point. It would have worked for him if he believed in it. You think about Tiger, he was the absolute best player in the world 3 different times with 3 completely different swings.
Exactly.
He goes from Butch Harmon, to Hank Haney, where he's swinging the club around his body. Couldn't have been 2 different things. And then he goes to Sean Foley. They were all different, but each time he totally believed in it. And I'm not sure that I'm convinced Brooks is believing in exactly what he is doing. And it's interesting. This second green right here, to me, is one of the most complicated green complexes on the course. Pete Dye's designed a couple of different styles of green complexes. Some of them are just plain difficult, like number 1 is, number 4, but they basically slope from back to front, and they're not too complicated. This one right here, in particular, is very complicated.
One thing I think is actually lacking in Brooks Koepka right now is an antagonist. Whenever he played his best, he was buddies with DJ. He got up every day, and he just wanted to finish better than DJ in every tournament. DJ was number 1 in the world. That was a pretty good bar to set yourself. For a time, he just wanted to prove Brandel wrong all the time. That was the chip on the shoulder, as we all do. But now, and we do. But he doesn't seem to have that antagonist now. All the Bryson stuff last year was just kind of noise. He doesn't have an antagonist on the course who's driving him, and I think he's motivated by that.
That's the athlete in him, Eamon. I honestly believe that's the athlete, the competitor in him. He likes the mano-a-mano, but I'll tell you, he's got to get past 17, though. He's plus 14 on 17 in the last 5 years, the worst record of any player in that span on 17. He's made 2 quads and 3 doubles in that span on 17. So that is definitely a thorn in his side, as he's not the only one around here. But that, for a player of his ilk and his talent to be plus 14 on that hole is very surprising to me.
But one word, if you have to sum it up, Rolf, what has been the reason for Koepka's fall off the world rankings?
I still can't quite figure out what motivates him. I think that Eamon's point is really a good one. There are some very small, subtle things that motivate Brooks Koepka. And as we know, he doesn't overall seem to get motivated till the championship part of the season really begins, which would be this time of year.
Which would be right now. Okay, we'll see how Brooks Koepka performs this week. He's out on the second hole over in the practice